Everyone is Addicted is a judgment-free space for real conversations about addiction. It's a show about breaking the stigma and building empathy. Everyone is Addicted, Mondays at 11 p.m.
What's going on, everybody? This is the host of Recover Outloud podcast, Sean Young. Before we dive in, I want to be clear. I'm not a medical professional. I'm not here to diagnose or treat. I'm simply a catalyst, someone who's walked through the fire and now speaks from experience, reflection, and a deep desire to help others find their way forward. This podcast may include honest conversations about addiction, mental health challenges, and suicidal thoughts or ideations. These are real parts of the human experience, and we won't shy away from them. If you're listening, please do so with self-care and self-awareness. And if you're struggling, please reach out. There's help out there. And most importantly, there's hope. Viewer discretion is advised. Now let's get it. What is going on, everybody? Welcome to Recover Out Loud, episode 117. We're 117 episodes deep in this thing, in the journey we call life, that we call recovery, and it's amazing. Before we jump into our guest, Everybody is Addicted. It's a show that my friend Jasmine Boodle has, and if you like to go check it out, go check it out. It's amazing content, amazing human beings over there doing the same thing we're doing over here. So our guest today is a really awesome human being. I've been on her show before, and now she's jumping on ours and sharing her story. We got Julie May. How you doing, Julie?
I'm doing fantastic. How are you?
It's a Monday.
It's a Monday.
That's not a good or a bad thing. It's a Monday.
Yeah. Well, I'm like, you know what? I'm self-employed. I kind of do my own thing. Mondays just kind of feel like another day. Sunday, like I don't have really weekends. I don't have like work days or not work days. Every day kind of feels like when you have your own schedule. It's like, well, it's Monday. I'm like, cool, good to know. I might not have known.
Yeah, absolutely. And sometimes these days blend together. Like I'm retired and disabled, and so like this is what I do. This and some other stuff with some veterans. So I get it. It's like, oh, what day is today? It's a Monday.
I don't know.
I have to look at my phone to know what day it is. It's wild.
Exactly. We were going to go do something last week, and my boyfriend was like, wait, we can't do that. It's Tuesday. And I'm like, no, it's not. It's Thursday. It happened to be Wednesday. Both of us were wrong.
I can relate. My roommate, he bought us season passes at Six Flags. Like apparently they're closing all of Six Flags now. So he bought us season passes to Six Flags for this season. And first day he was like, hey man, you want to go to Six Flags? And I'm like, yeah, man, it's probably gonna be jam packed. It's gonna be slammed, And he's like, it's not a weekend, it's Thursday. Oh shit. You're right. Yeah, I get it.
Yeah. So happy Monday.
Happy Monday. But anyways, Julie, would you like to give us a formal introduction of yourself?
Yeah, sure. I am Julie May. I am the founder of the Ridiculous You Company, LLC, and the Ridiculous Women's Society. And my whole spiel is helping you love even the ridiculous parts of yourself. So, and I have all the background in so many different things. So we talk about like addiction recovery stories, and I'm like, which one? Right? Because everything feels a little like we're on these beautiful little journeys. But that's who I am. I've been in business for the last 12 years, helping people see and love themselves, and I've done, produced events around the world and international keynote speaker. I do lots of things like that. I love sharing messages about just like inspiring people to get the help they need and to really just see themselves, like see the beautiful gift that they are and show up to take care of themselves in that way.
Absolutely, absolutely. And I mentioned before that you have a show, the Ridiculous You podcast. And
Yep.
tell us a little bit about that. What inspired you to create that and start that?
So what inspired me to do that? A lot of in my world. So I do a lot of events and a lot of speaking and personal development and stuff like that. And a lot of the podcasts I was seeing felt a lot like self-promotion podcasts. That's what I'll call them. They would have a guest on, but the guest would like sell the whole time. And the entire point of the guest being on would be just to like sell some program or something. And I'm like, this is stupid. Like, I hate this. Like, can we just have a show where we actually talk about real things and not for the purpose of selling somebody something at the end? Can we have it for the point of conversation? Can we have it for the point of, I may disagree with you or I may see things differently, but like, that's also okay. I wanted to showcase that there's like different points of view, get into like people's actual real stories and what really helped them, not the thing that they sell people that helps, but like when you're in that, like I remember like being in a freaking closet with pills in my hand, like what actually got me out of that? That's what I want to know. That's what I want to know from people, because I don't want to know just the acronym thing that's like, oh, I helped people through love and it looked like this. And I'm like, that's not what you did in that closet, girl. That's not what you did when you were on the side of the road and bawling your eyes out. That's not what you did. I want to hear that story. Yeah. And like just inspire people that they can do the next thing. Because all we have is like, we have right now, we have this second right now, and it just passes every second, right? That's what we have control over. And if you can like find a way to grasp enough control to be in charge of that 1 second, and you just repeat it and repeat it and repeat it, then all of a sudden you've come back to present. You can like make a change that easily.
Yeah, absolutely. I couldn't agree more. I see all the podcasts where people just self promote and they don't really like give anything of substance. And yeah, I mean that's cool and all if that's your shtick, but like there's a bit of reality that is real, right? And a bit of reality where we all have a story that needs to be shared. And that's kind of like same reason I started mine. Like I want to hear the stories of when you were low and then what brought you out of that, right? Because that's that human resilience and that's that beautiful mark on not just our lives but the mark on everybody around our lives, that we leave. And so that's essentially why this show was started, and it sounds like your show started the same reason.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah, that was the whole point, was, just to spread this idea and this movement that, we're all human. We all have those bad points. And I don't care what income level you are. That's the other thing that I realized. I'm like, this is not a class system problem where you have addiction and anxiety and depression and these things going on. Some people may put on a better mask about it, but I remember hanging out I was at this mastermind in New York, and I was hanging out with some really highly paid, influential people, very, very highly paid. And there came a point where we stayed up long enough and inhibitions had been gone enough where at like 2 or 3 in the morning, all of them were admitting to, I have, this is what anxiety actually feels like in my body, even though I look like I have it together. Or I have this eating disorder, and that's the thing I've decided to do to take control of everything. Or I have this addiction. Like all of the sudden, it humanized all of us. Once the barriers were down enough, all of us were humanized, and every person at every level was like, yeah, we all struggle. So if we can just admit that and say, yeah, we all struggle, and this is the actual thing that helps us. This is not the mask that I wear to showcase on the outside. This is not the thing I sell, but this is like the actual thing I do when it looks like that. And here's how I can help understand and see you better. Sometimes I think people just want to be seen.
Yeah.
So like, how can we do that on a larger systemic basis? I don't know. I'm going to try with my podcast.
Yeah, no doubt. And social media has given this beautiful opportunity and tragic opportunity for people to present like their life is put together, right? Like they got all their shit together, all their ducks are in a row. But what happens behind that screen or behind that the camera is completely different. And so really being able to dive into some of the people's stories and like hear them has been really amazing, because you look at people that are like you and me, and
Yeah.
they're like, my life is in shambles, but I smile, I put a mask on, and this is why. And it's like, oh shit, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a
Yeah.
great opportunity to connect with people, and like in recovery, we have this saying that the opposite of addiction is connection. And
Absolutely.
for me, like being able to connect, with people that I would never have spoken to before in my addiction is just it's an awesome feeling.
Mm. I love that. I definitely think connection's a big piece of this whole thing. And I think it's especially important right now. Political systems, I'm not going to go into like what I believe politically or whatever, but one thing I will say out loud is I think all the sides are working on divisiveness, and we are never going to heal as people, as a country, as long as what we're looking for is what makes us different and why the other side is wrong. Never going to work. It never in the history of anything has that been like, oh yeah, how about, especially, we're a country, we want to be connected together. That's the only way it's going to work. It's like being a family. The only way this is going to work is if we're connected. And so, I think there's a big story being told on all fronts to try and divide people. And I'm like, I come from the opposite endpoint of that and going, no, what we need to do is connect. What we need to do is, I think when you get to like the root of what people actually believe, there's more commonalities than we think. Like it may express differently on the outside, but like you dig down to their core beliefs, people want to be loved. They want to connect with somebody else. They want to trust other people. They want to feel like, other people see them and see the goodness in them. They want all of those core things, but like it expresses differently, and that's okay. But I would rather kind of come down and go, how do I connect with you? How do I understand you better? How do I see the pieces where we can like agree on something? But I also don't think we're going to agree on everything. I actually really like when we have kind of a controversial topic on my podcast, because I'm like, cool. I'm going to ask you some big questions about that, because I want to understand more, and I want to showcase to people like we can disagree and I can still like you, and I can still care for you, and I can still want to connect with you.
Absolutely. I agree. I think on a psychological, biological, and even a molecular level, like we all have that inherent need and want to be accepted and be, to be able to let that guard down and say, hey, look, this is what I want and what I need. And somebody please help me. Somebody please, understand where I'm coming from. And you're absolutely right. I think without stepping into politics, it is very divisive. That is one of the big things, one of the big talking points: politics and religion, two big talking points,
Yeah.
right? In this country, that will divide people faster than anything. And I think it's we also have this like selfish need to be right. Like we
Oh
just
yeah.
absolutely want to be right. Nobody can tell us that we're wrong. And then when we start to be able to take accountability for our shit and like actually be like, yeah, I was wrong, and I'm sorry. I think that the world will start to become a better place.
Oh, for sure. For sure. But there's like that ego part of us, right? That's like, if I say I'm wrong, it means I'm lesser than, and it means my value goes down like that. There's that ego part of your brain that tells you that. And so like the first time you practice it, the first time you're like, okay, I'm about to do, like, there's a part of your brain, like psychologically, that feels like it's going to die. It's like the world is ending. I'm going to say I'm wrong, and that's going to mean I'm worth less. And that's going to mean other people are going to judge me, and all of these things that people don't want as humans. But none of that actually happens. Like when, like in Gospel According to Julie, this is what I call it. Our purpose, like my purpose of being here on earth in like this body, this like vehicle that I'm driving my soul throughout this planet on, right? My purpose is to learn and grow and experience things that I can only experience here. And part of that learning and growing is like, if I have never been wrong, then what was the point of being here? Like, that is how you figure out things on this earth. So I have like this really strange like connection to failure, because that word doesn't even resonate to me anymore. I'm like, Oh, you mean like, oh, when you tried something and it didn't work, you just figured out one way it didn't work. That's not like a human failing sort of situation. But yeah, it's interesting how like that ego part of our brain of human beings is like, if I admit I'm wrong, it means this. But when you like actually practice it, and there is like, you can rewire that piece of your brain to just go, oh, that's actually the entire point of being on this planet and experiencing things, is to figure out what works and what doesn't and how to connect. And you have to be wrong in order to figure those things out. So
Absolutely.
yeah, it's kind of crazy.
I agree. I have had situations very recently within the past month where I've had to admit that I'm wrong, and my brain automatically goes to, you're going to not be accepted for who you are because you've
Yeah.
admitted you're wrong, and then that looks like weakness in the other person's eyes. It's like my brain took me to these nasty places. I had to talk myself out of it, and eventually, when I got to that point where I could be like, "Hey, how do you feel about what we talked about?" They were like, "Oh no, it's not a big deal. It's fine." I'm like, "Oh shit, okay." Like I feel so much better now, right? But our brain is our best friend and worst ally, and
Yeah.
so like, yeah, it's a crazy thing, and it's wild how every individual's brain works differently, but in the same fashion, it all works the same.
It is. It's wild that way, because I think all of us get born with that. If you're wrong and if you're wrong at all and anyone finds out, it's in your brain, in that subconscious, it's like, it's over, man. Like it's pretty dramatic about things. Sometimes I'm like, I'll talk to my subconscious kind of like it's a different person. I'm like, why you gotta be so dramatic? We are gonna be okay.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. I agree wholeheartedly. So we're gonna move on to your story. You had mentioned pills and a few other things. So walk us through that. When was the first time that you remember using pills or using harder substances?
Yeah. So like, it's interesting because I'll say like, addiction for me, I've been way more I've had a lot more issues with like food addictions and things like that, which I'm gonna tell you is gonna kill you just as much as any other addiction. Like I could see it definitely happening. But there was a big time. And the funny thing is, if this is like, and the funny thing is, it's not really funny, but like that's an expression we use, right? Is like, this was at a time where my life actually probably on the outside looked pretty damn good. Like if you were going to look at my business success, I'd already been in business. I was hosting conferences with like 500-600 people in physical attendance there. I was, as far as outside appearance goes, I was making really good money. It looked like I was kicking ass on the outside, but like the enormity of the stress of everything, I just still hadn't learned to deal with. I was in a super toxic marriage. I had a lot of kids with disabilities still at home, and trying to run everything. I think it was like the trying to run everything and look perfect on the outside. I think that's what it was, honestly. That, there was a point, and this is the other wild thing. I think it was like 2 weeks before I was supposed to host an event called the Joyful Living Women's Conference. That was my event. And there was probably, I'm going to say it was 2 or 3 weeks before that year's, like the big culminating event for that year. And I found myself in a closet wanting to end everything. And I had the things, I had the pills, I figured out how I was going to do it. And I think it was literally just that wanting to keep a facade, like kind of going back to what we just said, like looking like I didn't have it all together, or that I was failing at something or whatever, felt like so much. And then having a pretty abusive spouse who would just, freak out with giant rages over the tiniest little thing. And so like, then it would freak out that a part of me that if I'm wrong, I'm going to get this giant rage. And I'm supposed to be like showing up in this certain way for my audiences. And it was like this really terrible cycle that I think happens a lot to actually pretty public figures, And I wasn't public like nationwide, but in Utah, which is where I was at the time, pretty much everyone knew who I was at that time. Like I would go into a store and I would be recognized. Like in that little microcosm of who we were, you know, there was that aspect of wanting to show up in a certain way because that was the facade of everything. And then behind the scenes, things were a pretty big freaking disaster of a mess, really. And those worlds cannot live together too long. Like there's an energetic pull at which they just can't coexist. And that was what I thought would fix it in the moment. And so I pretty distinctly remember being, I was in this apartment we had right before we moved to kind of our big house, and being in the closet and just being like, pretty easy. We're just going to do this, 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 and this. It'll be over. And I won't have to live with this, dysfunction of polar opposites trying to live in my body at the same time. I'm not going to say it got better right away. Like there was incidences that got me out of that. A friend called me out of the blue because they just, this is where like, listen to your intuition, guys. Like I hadn't heard from this person in probably 5 years. And then I got a call out of the blue from them going, I just had this sneaking thought that I needed to call you right now and see how you're doing. And that was like right in it. Like, I don't know where I would be, frankly, if they didn't call. So you never know when you're going to be that person for somebody else, but it was enough to pattern interrupt me and remind me that people care and, it's okay to get up and out of it. That's what really happened in that moment to get me out of it. I don't know that anything that I actually did was working enough to get me out.
Yeah.
So that's the thing is like, you never know when you're going to be that person for somebody else. But yeah, it was somebody I hadn't talked to in a really, really long time.
Yeah, absolutely. And, you had the perfect storm,
Yeah.
The real perfect storm for that. You had marital issues going on. You were super under stress because of the business that you were working on. You were trying to put the mask on to show everybody that like shit was okay.
Yeah.
And, you had your kids at home that had some special needs and stuff. And that creates another layer of stress. My mother, my mother is my stepbrother. He's special needs, and he still lives at home at 20. And like I see her just struggling every day just to make just to make shit happen and make it okay. And sometimes it boils over. And like you said, you just had that perfect storm of events happening that put you in a situation where you're like, I'm done. I'm checking out. And my next question was going to be what kind of pulled you away from there? And you said, that friend had called you and.
Yeah, it really was that. And honestly, like leading up to that, going back to like the idea of addiction and stuff, I had probably over the 3 years, probably just in 3 years, gained maybe 50 pounds. Just trying to eat my way out of it or do something that like looked like I could get out of it. And at the time too, I was in a very strict religion that said you couldn't like smoke, drink, and do any of those things. So, what do? I choose eating. So like just ate all kinds of garbage and sugar. And like, I'm sure that didn't help my mental health either. Now that I know how that all works, I'm sure that just spiraled everything, but had spent years trying to just like placate with food and have some sort of relief that way. Ended up in that kind of a situation. And it really like started then me trying to figure out like, there's got to be better ways to deal with mental health. And that had been kind of my journey anyway. Like my kids' issues are mostly mental health issues. I have one with psychoaffective disorder, several with autism, bipolar 2, like the gamut of kind of special needs in the realm of mental health issues. And, I suffer from several of those things myself. And so that began kind of my journey of figuring out like, how do you actually deal with some of these mental health issues in a way where, like, one of my daughter with like psychoaffective disorder, we had taken her to every therapist. We had tried, I don't know, 7 or 8 different medications, and one would be worse than the other. And then she'd be calm for a minute, and then she'd be, completely out of control again, and like having delusions. And it was super, super, super scary. And so having like that on my shoulders at the same time, and then dealing with things myself, like I became like this warrior of like, let's figure out this mental health situation, frankly.
Yeah, yeah, and you're not wrong. With food, a lot of people think that just drugs and alcohol are the addiction portion of it, but really anything can be, right? Like if it's not done in
Yeah.
moderation, it can be a drug. And that was something I had to face early in my recovery, is that like everything that we do can be an addiction as long as we do not control it and we do not moderate it. And
Yeah.
people can have addictions to going to the gym. People can have addictions, driving their car. That's crazy to think.
I've seen that one. I've
Yeah.
seen that one. I actually know a few people, especially that are in kind of that bipolar situation, that anytime they get kind of more manic, they have this like compulsive need to drive the car.
Yeah.
They have to go out and drive, and they have to drive fast. It's actually, yeah, I've heard about that one quite a bit. Yeah.
Yeah. One of the things that really got me was addiction to the arts, right? And I was kind of like, that's weird because that's self-fulfilling, right? And that helps
Yeah.
you out. But it's like the definition to addiction or a drug is any mind-altering substance that has negative effects on you. And I've watched people literally play till and pass them bleeding, like
Yep.
playing guitar, and it's like that's not healthy for you,
Mm-hmm.
right? I understand that you have this love for music, but that shit is not healthy for you, right? And
Yeah.
anything can be done in that manner. And I've, I just think that a lot of people need to be more cognizant of the fact that like anything can be a drug until it's turned into something negative.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. How
Anything.
so?
Yeah.
Yeah. So you were, you were talking about having your food addiction. What ended up getting you to that point where you said, I need to change this because this isn't healthy for me?
I want to change that right back then. That was probably 2018. And that began kind of a long journey of figuring out what does and doesn't work for me. Like, obviously anything that's going to be like real whole foods, going to do better in my system. It's going to be doing better in anyone's system. I will promote that. I will be like, guess what? Your body is going to do better if it comes from the garden or an animal or something that's like a full whole food system. Your body definitely does deal with that better, right? And then but like I tried lots of different things. I tried veganism for a while. I tried paleo. I tried like the gamut of things to kind of figure out what worked and what didn't work in my body. I'm going to say there a little over a year ago, I had kind of one of those storms again, where it was like everything around me kind of crashing down. My mom passed away, and she kind of passed away in this really weird way where none of us got closure. There was a lot of weird like manipulation and crazy stuff happening with that. So it was like super tragic. We moved, did a big giant move. My ex at the time was being super volatile and changing his job, and did a few things that like kind of took my entire business down at the moment. And so it was a really, really bad kind of mental health time. Again, finding myself in those like crazy, crazy times. And I was like, okay, I want to do actual research. I want to see like peer-reviewed journal studies on how food affects your brain. And I found some that talked about the connection between the insulin in our bodies, how that's running, and our mental health and inflammation. And so that's kind of the things that's got me changed to what I do now. Is like I read study after study after study that said, okay, if you have too many of these kinds of sugars in your body, it is going to inflame your brain and it's going to react like this. And I was like, that makes sense, actually. That makes sense. If our brain is inflamed, it's probably not going to function very well. It's probably...
Damn you, internet, for being right.
I know. And I'm like, and this wasn't like just some That's the thing. Like when I'm looking for a solution, I'm not just going, oh, well, this guru said this or whatever. I'm like, no, I want to see the peer-reviewed journal studies, how long ago they were, what the method was. Was this a blind test? Like, I want to see that kind of shit before I'm like, maybe that's a thing. Maybe that's a thing. But like, there's, so I started researching a lot of more like this keto, super low carb situation. And I found out that like that diet, that way of eating got introduced over 100 years ago to treat people with epilepsy and seizures because it reduced the inflammation in their brain. And it was the only treatment they had. And it was extremely effective. And I was like, that's fascinating. Nobody talks about that. Years later, they did some studies on how it affects people with autism, how it affects depression, how it affects people with bipolar across the line. Like, I'll have to send you some of the links, but like one of the studies, and like we're talking about like full-on schizophrenia. Full-on schizophrenia is like some scary, hard stuff to deal with, right? Once they were put, like these individuals were put on an extremely low carbohydrate, only real foods diet for a certain length of time, 75% of them were able to get off their medications.
Yep.
That's kind of a big deal.
It is.
So I kind of went, you know what? Let's give that a shot. And within like 10 days, my brain was super clear. Like I had not felt that grounded, I don't think, in my entire life. Like that grounded, that cleared, that emotionally stable. And, so I did it for, that's what I still do this, but I had been on this diet for maybe like 3 months or so. And my son came to me. My son was probably 27 at the time, not autism, but not very high functioning, couldn't drive a car, couldn't keep a normal job, like lived with us, that people say autism and it can mean lots of different things. I like to describe the level we were at. We had actually tried to like teach him how to drive and get his emotions and everything under control since he was about 15. And he was 27 at the time. And we had tried multiple times, but he came to me and he's like, Mom, I can see how much better you're doing. Is it okay? Could I give this a shot? Could I see what this looks like for me? Like, can we see if it'll work? And literally, it was only a few weeks later that he was emotionally regulated enough to like get out, drive normally. Like he got his license. He's doing really well in college. He's living on his own right now. He'd lived with us pretty much the entire time. Crazy stuff. Like we've seen gigantic differences. And like the big thing for him too was like he had suffered from really massive depression on top of all of those things. And that improved dramatically within like 2 weeks.
Yeah, absolutely. I hear a lot of influencers, and I hate that word influencers, but I mean, it's the day and age we live in. A lot of influencers say that, if you eat right, it can change your mental state. And this is just further proof that it can. I dabbled in keto diet for about 3 months, and I'm just going to be honest. I was like, man, it's not enough food for me. Yeah. But it was. My brain was telling me like that shit ain't enough, right? Like it's just not enough for me. But I think, I think I'm going to step back into that realm because I need it too. I've been saying for the past month, like I need to eat healthy. And then this is just more affirmation that I need to eat healthy. So thank you.
Yeah, no problem. Like, and I will tell you this, there's like, I actually just did some recordings on this that are going to go in my membership area, but like there's levels, right? There's all these different words that kind of mean a basic low carb diet. And in order for me and my son, especially, to get the healing we needed to, like I went like full on carnivore. So like I was eating beef, butter, eggs. That was pretty much it for several months in order to get the inflammation down enough to have the effect that it needed to. So like, and like you say at the beginning of I'm not a doctor. I'm not diagnosing you. Meet with your professionals, whether it's your mental health professional or your doctor or whatever. But like, what a low risk way to see if something would help.
Yeah.
Do you know how hard it was to like watch my daughter go from medication to medication to medication with these massive swings? I mean, massive, massive swings in how that was going to affect her. It was terrifying. I would take off work for weeks. In fact, I was actually a school teacher in my previous life. And I quit my job to be home with her while we got her stabilized. And even when I went back to work, anytime we changed medications, it was like I would have to like tell my employer, I may be out for a day, I may be out for a week. I don't know what this is going to be like. We all had to like cross our fingers and hope it was going to be okay. And sometimes it wasn't. Sometimes it definitely wasn't. And I'm like, you know what? The traditional way was pretty high risk, frankly.
Yeah, absolutely.
How high of a risk is going to eat real food and things that aren't going to inflame your body or spike your sugars? That's a pretty low risk, low cost way of going. Maybe I can get some more grounding and more stability back in my life. And so I go, you know what? Likely it's going to help, but I'm not going to diagnose that for a lot of people. But the research really does support how it helps with all of these things, especially like once you get that going, it really does help with addictions and mental health things. And it's kind of crazy. And then I've lost 100 pounds since that time. So it's kind of crazy. So yay.
That's awesome. Congrats. That's huge. So you kind of hit on how you're helping your brain heal from a lot of those things.
Yeah.
What do you do to maintain your mental health? Because I'm pretty sure it's not just I'm eating right and that's it.
No, that's what helps keep. This is kind of how I see it. That's what helps keep me feeling grounded, and so that I can make conscious choice.
Yeah.
So it keeps me in that space, so that I'm not just on a lot of this that are in addiction or in any. So all of these things basically mean the same thing in my brain. Addiction means the same thing as a habit, which means the same thing as a bad cycle or repetition. Your brain, your subconscious kind of sees them all the same way, right? So when I am eating well, I have the ability, when something feels like a trigger, it doesn't release as much chemical that feels like anxiety or whatever. It doesn't release as much chemical of that into my body in the first place. And second thing it does is allows me to pause long enough to recognize it for what it is and make a different choice. Yeah. So the way an addiction works, it's like something happens that makes a trigger, and then you have a release of chemicals in your body that feel like fear or anxiety or whatever, right? You have this rush of emotion that happens, and then you have an automatic behavior, and it kind of leads to other things, and it just kind of goes on. I say it's actually a little spiral, because every time it happens, it deepens the loop and you keep going, right? In order for mental health things to get better, or for your life to actually get better, you have to like step out of that spiral really consciously, right? And so by being able to keep kind of my chemicals so that I feel grounded when something like that happens, and it doesn't actually trip the wire as much either. Like I'm not going, or I think I used to be like a little time bomb where everything would trip that daggum wire, and back comes in the emotions, right? So that's not happening as much. And when it does happen, it's like I can feel it in my body, but I can also kind of look at it as that third person outside and go, what's happening right now is my body is experiencing this because this other person just did this. But it's really not about this other person. It's about like this trauma I had from before, and I can decide I'm going to act and react differently within this whole network. And those things do help. And so like changing behavior, actively changing behavior, helps me keep really grounded. But then there's other things like, making sure I get out in the sun, moving my body in a way that's really helpful. I like to surround myself with joyful, beautiful things. So you can see like I have this background that makes me happy. I wear colorful clothes. Like I really love this idea of expressing your personality on the outside. I think it makes for more joyful being. And like I walk into a room, and I'm like a super Disney nerd. That's like one of those like little quirks about me. So if I walk into my dining room that has my, I have this Disney, like this Mickey Mouse phone. It is like huge. It's like 2 or 3 feet tall, and it's like Mickey. It's got the little phone. It was made in 1976. It has my name on it. That's significant because that is the year I was born. So when I walk into that room and I see like my big Mickey Mouse phone and it's in with like our other decorations and stuff, I just smile. It just makes me happy. So I like to create spaces that make me feel joyful. And so I think those things help too. I always talk about too, like keeping a somewhat organized space. I'm not a neat freak. I'm not like OCD about that, but I do feel like your physical surroundings are a reflection of how you feel inside. And so when you have a cluttered mind, you tend to have cluttered spaces, and just doing a little bit of organizing of space actually helps your mind feel more calm as well. So there's all these little things that, I've worked on creating habits around, where it's like clean and organized plus beautified spaces. I walk into a room, I feel organized. I feel like joyful because like the colors are bright, and it's little things that remind me of happy things within me. I, eat ways to keep me grounded. I know what cycles for me look like and how to like recognize, oh, that's just this chemical releasing in my body because of this, and I can choose a different behavior. I think there are several different things like that. I keep amazing people around me, and I know how to have boundaries, and I know that boundaries are for me and not for them necessarily. Like people get that wrong. I think they go, well, you crossed my boundary. I'm like, yeah, but you as the person with the boundary are the one responsible for creating a consequence and changing what behavior looks like after.
Yes, absolutely.
They have autonomy with how they choose to act, for sure. And it's cool for you to express it, but remain the person in control of that situation. You now get to change how you act and react with that person. And you're still the person in control. You're the person the boundary is for. And I know I just spouted off a lot of different things, but there are different ways of being and acting in this world that helps create a more joyful expression of life.
Absolutely. I agree. I agree with everything that you said. One other thing that I do is I light candles around my house, depending on like the time of day. Right. So like for me, I have a scent for each room that I walk into, so that I'm like, okay, that brings me happiness, and that brings me to a point, right? So like right now, I actually have a candle that is for grounding, and it's meant to like balance me out. I found out, and it's crazy. I lit that, and then I found out something so unpleasant prior to you jumping on, and I don't want to talk about that here, but that helped keep me grounded, and I didn't even know I needed it. And then I have other scents through each room in my house where if I light it, I know it's going to bring me back to where I need to be. So that's something that I do for myself. You mentioned, go ahead.
Scents are actually super important. We have the same thing going. My little candle here is kind of funny. I told you I'm a Disney nerd, so this is like, it smells like Pirates of the Caribbean. That's what it smells like.
Like dirty pirates and rum.
Pretty much. I don't know. It smells like actually the water, whatever they treat the water with. That's what it smells like. But if I walked out of this room right now, I would bet that there's an apple one going in that room, and I bet there's another one going in the other room. But like smells go straight. They actually work way differently than a lot of the other things we do, and I think they're more important than people give them credit for being grounding and being a pattern interrupt, because it bypasses all your other systems and goes straight to your amygdala, which is kind of like your lizard part of your brain, and makes changes deeper and faster than a lot of other things do. So, I'm a weird person that has like studied the way brains work for long enough. I'm a hypnotherapist and a trained NLP practitioner. I was a registered behavior therapist for a long time. And like how the brain works is like my favorite jam to talk about. But like the way scents work, they like bypass everything else. And they're really, really important for emotional transition work, more than people say, I think.
Absolutely. So you said you're a Disney nerd.
Yeah.
What are your top 3 favorite Disney movies?
So I will tell you, and then I will quantify. I'm more of I like to go to Disney parks nerd than watch all the Disney movies nerd.
Okay.
I'm gonna say I like all like the Disney classics, but Mary Poppins has a really special place in my heart. It was just one of those movies we grew up with. I just loved that era and whatever. I love Julie Andrews. And then it turned into a musical, and our whole family was kind of involved in the musical. My daughter played Jane Banks. My other two kids were in the show. We built all the sets. And so I'm actually going to see the musical here in Austin next week. So like that one has a really, really special place in my heart. I would say the old cartoon of Robin Hood, probably another big one. And then, gosh, what would be a third one? Maybe Little Mermaid. Little Mermaid. Yeah.
Solid choice. All three are solid choices.
Solid. But I am way more of a I want to go to Disney World all the time kind of nerd. I'm like, if you ask me my top 3 rides, it'll go faster. I'm like, top 3 rides. Here's why.
Yeah. So my daughter's a Disney movie nerd. She's 12 years old, well, 13 now. And we had this conversation the other day, and she was like, "Dad, what are your top 3 favorite?" And I told her, and she was like, "I've never seen any of those." I was like, "I know, because they're classics. You have not had the opportunity to watch them yet. One day."
So what were yours?
Okay. Lion King,
Oh, Lion King is damn good.
Aladdin,
Yeah.
and Fox and the Hound.
Oh, Fox and the Hound's a good one too.
Yeah. The ending broke my heart.
Yeah. That's that little song, "When You're the Best of Friends," that gets stuck in my head sometimes. It's just so tender. It's a beautiful movie.
And honorable mention Toy Story, and I know it's Pixar, but still.
Still. Have you seen the original one, like with your adult eyes now? Because like at the time when it came out, it was like this masterpiece of digital creation. When you look at it now, it looks a little creepy. It's kind of funny.
Definitely. Before we shut down the show, Julie, I always ask my guests these 3 questions, and I find it to be important to me, especially today. What are 3 things that you are grateful for today?
3 things I am grateful for today. Gosh, it's the hard thing is like narrowing it down to 3 things. I'm going to give you some basic ones. I'm grateful for sunlight. I think it just feels so good. I woke up because the sun came in my window this morning. That's a beautiful way to wake up. Not an alarm, not somebody telling you got to be somewhere, but because the sunlight came out. That's nice. It was beautiful. I felt good this morning. I am grateful for my doggos. They are crazy. We have 2 dogs here, and I'm newly empty nesting from, gosh, I think I've had no kids in the house for the first time in 30 years for about a month now. So I've been momming for over 30 years. And so for about a month now, I haven't had kids in the house, but I have a little corgi, and we have, a little bit bigger dog. And I am grateful for the dogs because they just light a smile on your face. They're just funny little goofy things. And I am grateful for this time in my life. It's a really funny thing where people like get afraid of getting older or like whatever. I'm 49. I just turned 49, right? And I'm like, this is a damn good time. I don't know. I find it to be super fun. I'm like, don't be afraid of getting old, guys. It's a grand time because, you've lived a life at this point I have where I have learned so much and I have grown so much. And there's like, you kind of run out of fucks to give. And you're just like, it's kind of funner to just kind of be out and who you are and have learned all these life lessons and to just, having the kids be adults. I adore having adult kids because you can kind of be more friends with them and hang out. But like, this time in my life is just, it's fun. It's super fun. I'm grateful to be 49, to be, in a healthy body with no medications or anything. I can get out and do anything I could have done when I was 20. I'm actually in probably better shape now than when I was 20. And it's a damn good time to be alive.
That's awesome. Yeah. When you were saying, empty nesting, I just went back to Talladega Nights where Ricky Bobby was like on his first interview and he's like, "What do I do with my hands?" With my hands. I could just imagine that. Like, what do I do with myself now? I have no kids.
I know. I have like all this time. I'm like,
how much room for activities?
Crazy. Well, because like really, we had kind of our hers, mine, and our situations. We had like 7 kids, so like it's kind of intense. So and like I got pregnant in high school. Like I actually found out I was pregnant on graduation day, and so like I found out I was pregnant on graduation day from high school, and here we are. Like this is the first time that I've had kids in the house. Like 30 something years. So that's kind of wild. And, I love them all. They're like fantastic human beings. But this is also like, man, what a cool time to be alive. I tell my kids all the time, I'm like, I kind of skipped my 20s because I went straight to momming. So I'm kind of like going to do my 20s now. And, it's kind of fun.
Absolutely. Miss Julie, where can we find you?
You can find us. We've got a Facebook group that's ridiculously.you.com. That's on Ridiculously You. So ridiculously.you.com is where you can find our website that's going to have like a whole bunch of free resources. You can sign up for our newsletter there. And then the Ridiculously You Facebook group is free as well. You can come in. We do like little mini challenges. We celebrate like all those fun little quirky aspects of yourself and give you a lot of those tips and tricks for keeping, your mental health in a really good place and learning to really love even those ridiculous parts of yourself.
Absolutely. All right, Miss Julie, I want to take a moment and say thank you for being who you are, and thank you for sharing this moment with me. Thank you for being here, and thank you for all the inspiration that you provide people all across the world. You are an amazing human being, and I am grateful for you.
Thank you so much. Thank you for sharing on your show. Oh my goodness, how many episodes is this? 100 and something?
117.
117. Way to go, man. That's like freaking amazing. Love it. Appreciate it.
Yeah. There's a small statistics that say that that about only 20% of podcasts make it past 20 episodes, and I mean, shit, we're here. So we've crossed that hump a long time ago. But anyways, I want to take a moment and say thank you, everybody, for being here. Thank you for sharing this moment with Julie and myself. And just love yourself. Be kind to yourself. Be gracious to yourself. You are loved. You are worthy, and you are worth it. Have a nice